is Wednesday, September 30th, and this morning we will be discussing the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and what was, I am sure, the biggest spectacle in American political history. And I'll be joined this morning by Rance Collins from 800 Democrat. This is the AM Report. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the AM Report with Alex Mahajer. I'd like to bring up Rance Collins, who is chief of 800 Democrat. And Rance is a dear friend, and he is the editor-in-chief of the 800 Democrat and the Left Beat. Thanks for joining us this morning, Rance Collins.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you, Alex.
How you doing, Rance?
Oh my gosh,
I'm glad to be here.
How can anyone be doing anything after last night? That was, oh God.
Right. And full disclosure, Rance and I know each other and have been activists together, and so there is a previous relationship for our audiences, but we did watch the debates together last night, and I wanted to bring you up because you are the editor-in-chief of 800 Democrat, and you did fact-check the debates last night, and I want to get into that, but first and foremost, what the hell just happened on the American political stage last night? It was a spectacle. It was bombastic. Donald Trump was, people think that when we use words like deranged or bombastic, they're hyperbolic. But this was such a unprecedented display of obstructive, rude interruption and shouting. And what did you think of just what Donald Trump's tactic last night of being as obstructive and rude as possible?
Yeah, you have to wonder what was he advised in debate prep? Was the idea that if you just interrupt and talk as much as possible, you're going to fluster Joe Biden, you're going to make him look weak by comparison? I'm not quite sure what the entire strategy was. Because, I mean, from my vantage point, which is admittedly biased, I just saw a petulant child acting out the entire time. And that was, to me, the most upsetting thing about last night, is that this is the person who's currently in charge of our nation, who has access to the nuclear codes. Like, watching him act up, watching him interrupt Joe Biden so almost impossible, for him to get through a word edgewise was honestly the most upsetting thing that I think I have seen in quite some time.
Well, and we got a comment from Mark Goldman. Trump was clearly a disaster, but I would have been interested to hear your opinion on Biden's performance. And we will get into that. I think the point for Donald Trump was to be as obstructive as possible because he's under a lot of pressure because his record is he's not the outsider anymore. And now he's been on the job for 4 years, and he clearly has had a failing in his coronavirus response. There's upwards of over 200,000 people who've died from coronavirus. And the Supreme Court a spectacle that has been created by the vacancy that's been created by Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. Donald Trump may have thought that that's a win for him, but it seems to have energized the left quite a bit because everybody, including Republicans, remember Mitch McConnell and the Republican Party and their tactics with regards to Antonin Scalia's seat and Obama's pick in 2016. So that that hypocrisy has been laid bare, and I think that it's backfired on a lot of Senate races where Republicans who have usually been strong are vulnerable to Democratic candidates who are seeking to flip those seats. We have the New York Times tax return story that really is pretty damning for the president. The new information that he's only paid $750 in income taxes in 2016, 2017, and no income taxes in 10 of the last 15 years. So, given that, do you think that his purpose last night was to make it, as Mark is intimating here, to make it very hard for Joe Biden to perform?
I mean, I think that was part of the strategy. Kind of what I was hitting on a second ago is that he could interrupt him so much that he could make him. I guess he could sell that entire idea that he's been trying to sell, that Biden has some type of mental deficiency. Although I think Biden instead was showcasing how incredibly patient he is. That is a quality that I think that Americans have not seen enough of in the last 4 years, because what Joe Biden did last night is he sat back, he let him act out, he told him to be quiet or actually shut up when he needed to, and he smiled and laughed off a lot of his silliness. But the big thing that pushing forward and getting through as much information as he was able to do under those circumstances that Joe Biden proved last night was Joe Biden proved that he could be an adult in the room. And America right now is looking for an adult in the room, because we have not had that since Barack Obama left office. So I think Joe Biden did what he needed to do last night, despite Donald Trump trying to obstruct him.
I think that you're right. I think that Joe Biden, there were a lot of moments where Joe Biden was beginning to make great points about the failing on coronavirus, on Donald Trump's failing and handling that, on other issues like the Supreme Court and why it's important that we protect the Affordable Care Act. He began to say the Affordable Care Act and pre-existing conditions, protections that are contained in it, will be destroyed by this guy. And whenever Donald Trump felt like he was about to go into vulnerable territory, he would go on the attack and attack Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son. He would it was really difficult to gauge exactly what Trump was saying, because it was so belligerent.
That makes me
hard to parse out what he was saying, right?
What I think was actually, there's the moment that people, I think, have really focused on from last night, rightfully so, and Trump's refusal to condemn white supremacist groups.
Yeah.
And that is getting justifiably a ton of airplay. But a moment that I want to make sure is not lost was the moment that he pivoted Joe Biden calling Trump out for disparaging the military by discussing it as a parent of a person who has passed away, Beau Biden. He's sitting there talking about Beau Biden, and Donald Trump pivots to Hunter Biden in the most disgusting way I think I have ever seen anybody pivot a subject, honestly. He's like, Joe Biden is sitting here opening up his heart for the nation, and then he said, like, oh, but what about your son with the drug problem, is basically what that pivot was. It was gross. It was so indicative of who he is as a person. He does not have feelings. He is not afraid to lay a person's family bare and use every dirty secret in the book against you. Mm-hmm. Hunter Biden had an addiction problem that he got help for. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is not something to use against somebody. That is something that affects everyday families all over this country. That is not I it
Yeah.
made me so upset that I can barely formulate words right now.
And it's it happens. I think that was one of the lower points for me too, is attacking somebody's family in that way, especially his sons.
Beyond the pale.
Especially,
Beyond the pale.
especially Joe Biden, who has lost so much personally, and we are aware of the tragedy of his personal story. That I don't think that's a winning strategy for Donald Trump, and I think Joe Biden did a really effective job of looking him in the face and saying, "That's my son," and then looking us in the face. But Joe Biden did a lot of looking straight to camera and straight to the audience and connecting with us. When Donald Trump was attacking his family, he looked right to camera and said, "This isn't about our families. This is about your families." I thought that was very effective. But I do think you touched on, and we may have buried the lead about what was one of the most alarming sort of headlining moments, one of the most important moments of the evening last night. The takeaway amongst the chaos and the bombast and the spectacle and the confusion and the belligerence was Donald Trump's refusal to denounce white supremacy, and in fact, what it appears to be somewhat of a dog whistle to white supremacists. And we're going to play a clip for you guys. Now, the Proud Boys, we'll talk about them in a second, but this is the Donald Trump's response when asked to denounce white supremacy during last night's presidential debate.
And other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you prepared to specifically do it?
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. Do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his FBI. His FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
When a bat is your head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous radical.
Gentlemen, you have repeatedly criticized.
I almost hate to subject everyone to it again, but I think it's really important for people to see it, and I think it should be the clip that's played over and over again. This was a dog whistle to white supremacist groups who are causing violence, and so I want to actually give some information to people about what the Proud Boys exactly is. So the Proud Boys are a hate group, a far-right neo-fascist hate group that promotes and engages in political violence. The FBI considers them an extremist group. And last night, and we'll see that photo there, the Proud Boys on Instagram were posting pictures. They took this as a call to arms. And this is the group that Donald Trump wants to get up at polling locations and watch people vote with guns. And if the election doesn't go his way, to cause political violence and start shooting. This was deeply problematic. The Proud Boys took that last night. The stand by, that is not a denouncement. That is a call to arms, and it was extremely frightening and intentional. And I think that was really, I'm chilled to my core. This is unprecedented in American history. Rance, what do you think about that? And especially this now social media chatter we're seeing in the aftermath of these white supremacist groups saying, hell yeah, Trump just told us to get into action.
I had read that moment a few times since last night, read the text exchange, but I hadn't watched it again. And that was harrowing. That is one of the most upsetting moments of live television that I think has ever existed, We just he literally asked, "What do you want me to call out?" And white supremacy. Literally, all he had to do was denounce white supremacy, and he refused the opportunity to do that. He would not do that if he was not a white supremacist. He doesn't denounce white supremacy because he is a white supremacist. I just want to make sure that is incredibly clear to anyone who is watching this right now. But I'm sorry, what did you ask me exactly? I'm recovering.
No, I think you did a good job of answering it either way. We're talking about the debates last night between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. There wasn't a lot of substance to get through, but I think, the takeaways, running out of time, was if Joe Biden's goal last night was to let the American people know that we are sicker, we are less wealthy, we are more divided, we are more violent under Donald Trump's watch, he did the job. What are your final takeaways, Rance?
I don't envy whoever the next moderator is going to be in the next debate, because I honestly don't know where we go from this display that we saw last night. But the only thing I can ask anyone to do at this point is to go make a plan to vote at iwillvote.com, because we need to get every single vote we can. And also, please consider donating to either the Joe Biden campaign or 800democrat.com, which is my organization, because we need to get in as many dollars as possible to make sure that as many people are reached and vote as possible. Because the thing is, we cannot, as a nation, survive 4 more years of this travesty of a human being.
Rance, I think you'll be happy to know that CNN last night did a post-debate poll which showed that Joe Biden handily defeated Donald Trump. And I don't know how much these polls matter. In fact, I think that they don't matter at all. But, if public sentiment is important at all, Joe Biden won this debate last night handily, and also they had 14 undecided voters on their CNN panel last night. 6 of them decided last night, 4 of them for Biden, 2 of them for Trump. I think that is a ratio that people who are supporters of Joe Biden can feel comfortable with. Although it is shocking to me that there are any voters after last night's performance that would look at what the president did and feel comfortable with that in the executive branch of this country. So this has been the AM Report with Alex Mahajer for Haps News, the network of Now. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, with all of your quick political news and headlines. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it at haps.tv/@Alex Mahajer. I'd like to thank my guest and my friend Rance Collins for joining us this morning, and we'll see you tomorrow morning